Today, I want to talk to you about the presence present as we get ready for the holiday season, which focuses us so much on being thankful and giving gifts. I want to convey that the greatest gift we could receive, the gift that has no comparison, no equal, that will cover every need and cover every day, is the gift of God's presence. His presence is the present we need in this season, in life's challenges, in the areas of our journey we're navigating, in the obstacles we're facing, in the enemies we need victory over, and in the promises we're seeking to enter into. One of the most moving encounters with God, one of the most powerful prayers ever prayed, was by Moses in Exodus 33. He had just spent time in the tent of meeting, which represented the place where God's presence and glory would come. That Israel, on their journey from Egypt to the promised land in Canaan, whenever they camped and the Lord would stop, his presence by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, when it would stop and rest, they would set up their camp. They would set up their individual tents, but they would also set up the tent of meeting, a place to meet with God. And in Exodus 33:14, as Moses is meeting with God and praying to God, God says, "My presence will go with you." And then in verse 15, Moses says, "Lord, if your presence does not go with us, do not let us leave from this place." A few nights ago, I woke up at 1 a.m., was awoken, and then I immediately felt weighed down. Just began to have some processing of thoughts, processing of conversations I had had, decisions that needed to be made, needs that I didn't know how God was going to answer, and I began to feel a bit anxious. In the middle of the night, didn't want to wake up Joni, but I was starting to feel anxious. So I immediately went to the scriptures, read some scriptures, but as I began to pray, I just began to confess my need for God. I began to confess any areas of doubt or fear or sin. And when I woke up the next morning, not only did I feel more peace, but I actually felt comforted and assured and confident, because what I realized is I was caring so much about hearing God's voice. My prayer that night was not just those things would be answered, but I wanted to encounter God. I wanted to meet with God. I wanted to hear his voice. I even remember praying, "God, I want to hear your voice. I feel like you're not speaking right now." And that was my version of when Paul prays and says, "I consider everything else trash to the all surpassing greatness of knowing Jesus Christ." And again, I want to say to you, the gift of knowing Jesus, the gift of knowing God, the gift of walking in his presence and walking in his light is the most important thing we can receive. In that night, I recognized I may have been putting too much joy and fulfillment in serving God as a pastor, but not being with God as a child. I may have been putting too much um, fulfillment and security in the house I have, or or the money I have in the bank, or my retirement plan. And I definitely can confess that at times I spend too much time on my phone or watching sports. I need to make God number one. We need to make God number one. What I love about this Moses prayer, this Moses cry, is he had already experienced, by Exodus 33, he had already experienced the miracles in Egypt, the Red Sea crossing, manna from heaven, water from the rock, defeating of enemies, and the glory of God on Mount Sinai. He had gotten the Ten Commandments, but yet he says, "I need you today more than ever. I need you right now. I need your voice. I need your hand. I need you to lead me. God, you are the one I look to." I love that Moses needed daily mercies, messages, and miracles, and so do we. So, my friend, whatever you have as a care today, make it your number one care and cry that you would ask God for his presence. He has the answer you need for the battles you face. He will amaze you with his love. He will meet you when you call. He will not forsake you in the night, and he will lead you to the place of promise, freedom, and victory. May the cry of King David in Psalm 16:11 be our heart's cry in 2021. In your presence, Lord, is fullness of joy.